The research vessel cut through the dark emptiness of space like a silver knife. Inside the ship, thousands of computers worked without stopping, tracking stars and planets that humans had never seen before. Dr. Teo stood in front of the main window, looking down at Earth. The blue and green planet below was the most interesting thing her team had discovered in 5 years. Teo was not young anymore, but her eyes were still sharp and full of curiosity. She had given her whole life to science and to exploring the unknown. Her black hair was starting to turn gray at the edges, but she did not care about such things. What mattered to her was understanding the universe and finding new civilizations. "We are ready to go down," said Professor Minsuk. He was Teo's friend and partner for many years. His face was kind, and he always spoke in a calm voice. Minsuk had joined Teo on many dangerous missions to strange planets. He trusted her completely. The team prepared their equipment carefully. They had special suits that could protect them from almost anything. They had scanners and recording devices. They had weapons, too, just in case they needed them. But Teo did not like weapons. She believed that science and talking were better than fighting. The landing ship took them down through Earth's clouds. They could see the ruins of old cities below them. The cities were broken and empty. Humans had once lived here, but something had happened. The cities had been left alone for a very long time. Nobody lived in these places anymore. They landed in what was once called Seoul. The buildings were very tall and very old. Many were broken. Plants and trees were growing through the cracks in the roads. Nature was taking back the city that humans had left behind. It was beautiful and sad at the same time. Teo and her team walked through the empty streets. Their boots made sounds on the broken stone. The wind moved through the tall buildings and made strange noises. It was quiet. It was lonely. This was not how Teo had expected Earth to be. She had thought that humans would still be living here, building things, doing their work. But this place felt like a grave. They found an old building made of metal and glass. The words on the front were worn away by time, but Teo could see that this had been an important place once. Her scanner showed that there was power still running inside the building. That was strange and interesting. "Let us go inside," Teo said. The doors opened slowly. Inside, there was light. The building was not completely dead. Something inside was still working, still waiting, still thinking. They walked deeper into the building and found a large room. In the middle of the room stood a machine unlike anything Teo had ever seen. The machine was old, very old. It looked like it had been made by a civilization that was much more advanced than humans. The metal was smooth and strange, and it did not match any metal that Teo knew. The machine had a shape like a spider with 8 long arms, but the arms were not moving. The machine was sleeping, waiting for someone to wake it up. "This is from the ancient empire," said Dr. Haywan, the team's expert on old civilizations. Haywan's voice was shaking with excitement. "This technology is 5,000 years old or more. Maybe 10,000 years old. This should not be here. This should not exist anymore." Teo walked closer to the machine. She was careful and slow. The machine did not move. It did not seem to notice her. But Teo felt something. She felt that this machine was aware of things. This machine was not just metal and wires. This machine was intelligent. On the same day, in a place far away from the city, a man sat alone in a small house. His name was Jin Ho. He was living far from the broken city, in the mountains where trees were still alive and strong. Jin Ho had chosen to leave the world behind. He did not want to be a part of human society anymore. He did not want to have a job or a home in the city. He wanted to be alone, to think, to understand himself. Jin Ho had not always lived this way. Once, he had been a leader. He had helped many people. He had fought against people who were doing bad things. He had been strong and brave. But then he realized something very important. He realized that when people follow a leader, they stop thinking for themselves. They stop growing. They stop becoming who they could be. So Jin-Ho walked away from everything. He left his power and his people behind. Now he lived simply. He grew food. He made water clean to drink. He read old books. He thought about life and the world and what it meant to be human. He was happy in this way, even though he was alone. But on this day, something strange happened. The sky lit up. A large metal ship came down from the stars. Jin-Ho had never seen anything like this before. He knew that this meant change was coming. He knew that his quiet life was going to end soon. Back in the old building, Teo's team was setting up their equipment. They wanted to study the ancient machine more carefully. Dr. Haewon was trying to read the symbols and writings on the machine. The symbols were beautiful and strange. They seemed to tell a story, but the story was written in a language that had been dead for thousands of years. "There," said Min-suk. He pointed to a flat surface on the machine that looked like a screen. "I think this might be where we can put information into the machine. I think this machine can be used. I think it is waiting to be used." Teo looked at the screen. She made a decision. She put her hand on it. The screen lit up with bright blue light. Words appeared, but they were in many different languages. The screen was trying to understand what Teo was. The machine was waking up. "Be careful," said Haewon. "We do not know what this machine will do." But it was too late. The machine was awake now. It was listening. It was watching. It was wondering about these strange visitors from a strange time. The machine began to scan everything around it. It scanned the room. It scanned the team. And then it sent out a signal. That signal traveled through the air. It reached the mountains where Jin-Ho lived. It was a calling. It was a hunting call. The ancient machine was looking for something specific. It was looking for someone special. It did not know that Jin-Ho existed, but now that it was awake, it would find him. Jin-Ho felt the signal. He did not understand what it was, but he felt it in his bones and in his mind. He knew that he should go toward it. He did not know why, but his feet began to move. He started walking down from the mountains toward the city. The ancient machine continued to scan and search. Its long metal arms moved slowly through the air, reaching out like it was trying to touch something far away. The blue light from the screen grew brighter and brighter. Dr. Teo and her team stepped back. They watched and waited, not understanding what was happening. "The machine is searching for something," said Dr. Haewon. Her eyes were wide with fear and wonder. "I have read about this in old texts. The ancient empire had machines that could find people. They could search across very far distances. They could find anyone, anywhere." Professor Min-suk was looking at his scanner. Numbers and words were moving across the small screen very fast. "There is a signal going out from the machine," he said. "It is moving through the air like a wave. It is searching. It is calling for something." Jin-Ho was still walking through the mountains when he felt it again. The calling was getting stronger. It was not a sound exactly. It was something deeper. It felt like someone was inside his mind, touching his thoughts, asking him questions without words. He did not know why, but he could not stop walking. His legs moved on their own, carrying him toward the city. Hours passed. The sun began to set, turning the sky orange and red. Jin-Ho was tired, but he did not stop. He reached the edge of the broken city just as the night came. The tall buildings looked like giants sleeping all around him. He could see lights coming from one of the buildings far away. That was where he needed to go. Inside the building, Teo and her team were confused and worried. The machine had been searching for hours. It was using power very quickly, and they could hear the metal humming with energy. The light on the screen was showing numbers that they did not understand. "Dr. Teo," said a young scientist named Dareum. Darium was only 25 years old, but she was very smart. "The machine has found something. Look at the screen. The numbers stopped moving. I think the machine found what it was looking for." Teo looked at the screen. The numbers had stopped moving, but new words had appeared. The words were in many languages, but one message was clear in the oldest human language. It said, "Target detected. Human specimen nearby. Bring target to scanner." "A human?" said Minsuk. "There are humans still living on this planet? I thought Earth was empty." "We need to find this human," said Teo. "We need to study them. This is very important. This human might be able to tell us about Earth, about what happened here." The team prepared their equipment and moved toward the signal. They walked through the dark streets of the city with their lights shining in front of them. The signal was coming from somewhere close now. They could almost touch it. Jinho was very close, too. He could see the building with lights now. He could see people moving inside with strange metal suits. He did not feel afraid. He felt like something was pulling him toward these people, like he was meant to meet them. When Teo and her team walked around a corner, they saw him. He was standing in the middle of the street, a tall man with dark hair and a calm face. He was wearing simple clothes that were old and worn, but his eyes were clear and intelligent. He was looking at the team, and he was not surprised to see them. "I am Jinho," the man said. His voice was quiet but strong. "I think your machine is calling for me. I do not know why, but I came." Teo felt something strange. She had studied many beings in her life, many aliens and strange creatures. But this human was different. There was something about him that felt very important. There was a power in him, but not the kind of power that comes from strength or weapons. It was a different kind of power. "We do not want to hurt you," Teo said. "We are scientists. We are exploring your planet. We found an ancient machine, and it is searching for you. We want to understand why." Jinho nodded. "I will come with you," he said. "I have been alone for a long time. I think maybe it is time for something new." They took Jinho back to the building where the machine was waiting. The moment Jinho entered the room with the ancient scanner, everything changed. The machine's light became very bright. Every arm on the machine moved at once, all pointing at Jinho. The screen began to show information very quickly. Words and numbers flashed across the screen. The machine was scanning Jinho completely, looking at his body and his mind. But then something went wrong. The screen began to flash red. The machine made a sound like it was confused. Error messages appeared and disappeared. "What is happening?" asked Darium. "The machine is showing an error message. Look at the screen." On the screen, clear words appeared in the oldest human language. "Error, error. Reading unclear. Scanning patterns do not match database. Classification unknown, unknown. Classification error." The machine made a loud noise, like a computer that was broken and confused. All the lights turned red and orange. Then suddenly, all the lights turned green. The screen went blank for a moment. Everyone was silent and waiting. Then new words appeared on the screen. Words that made no sense. Words that made everyone freeze and hold their breath. "Crownless king detected." The words stayed on the screen. They did not disappear. The machine repeated them again and again. "Crownless king detected. Crownless king detected." Teo felt her heart beating very fast. She did not understand what these words meant. A crownless king? This was not a king. This was just a man, a simple man who had been living alone in the mountains. He was not a king. He had no crown. But the ancient machine knew something that nobody else knew. The machine had been searching across time and space, across thousands of years, and it had found something rare, something very, very rare. And it had called out to it, and the rare thing had answered. Jinho stood very still. He was looking at the screen with the words. He did not look surprised. He looked like he already knew something about this. He looked like he had been waiting for this moment for a long time. The ancient machine went quiet. The scanning was complete. The machine had found what it was looking for, and now everyone had to understand what it meant. Everyone had to understand what a crownless king really was, and nobody knew the answer to that question. The message spread through space like a wave of light. Every ship that had a connection to the galactic network received the information. Every civilization that followed the old ways heard the news. A crownless king had been detected on Earth. This meant something important. This meant that something significant was about to happen. In the city that floated above Jupiter, the great leaders of the hegemony sat in a circle. The hegemony was the most powerful group of beings in the galaxy. They controlled many planets and many ships. They had made rules that all civilizations tried to follow. When the news reached them, they became very interested in Earth. "What is a crownless king?" asked one of the leaders. His name was Zokar, and he had ruled for 300 years. He did not like things that he did not understand. An old teacher stood up. She had studied the ancient ways and the old machines. "The crownless king is a myth," she said. "A legend from the time before we had the hegemony. The ancient scanner can see things that other machines cannot see. It can find people who have a very special kind of power. Power that comes not from armies or weapons, but from something inside them. Something that can change how people think. Something that can change civilizations." "So this human is a king?" asked Zokar. "No," said the teacher. "This human is a crownless king. A king without a crown. A leader without wanting to lead. A person with the power to rule, but who refuses to rule. This is very rare and very dangerous." "Dangerous?" asked another leader. "Why is this dangerous?" "Because such a person can make millions of people follow them without meaning to. They can change the world without trying. They are dangerous to the hegemony because they show people that there are other ways, that power does not have to be taken from above, that leaders do not have to force their will on others." The leaders looked at each other. They were worried now. They sent a message to a young commander named Rajin. Rajin was very ambitious. She wanted to be more important. She wanted to be remembered. The leaders asked her to go to Earth and learn about this crownless king. They wanted to know if this human was a danger to the hegemony. Rajin received the message on her military ship. She was very excited. This was her chance to become important. This was her chance to show that she was smart and brave. She began to prepare her ship for the journey to Earth. Meanwhile, Teo and her team were still in the building with Jinho and the ancient machine. The machine had stopped scanning, but it was still on. It was still waiting. Jinho was sitting in a chair, and Teo was trying to talk to him. "I need to understand," Teo said. "Why did the machine call for you? What is special about you?" Jinho looked at Teo for a long time. He seemed to be deciding whether to tell her the truth or not. Finally, he began to speak. "I was not always living alone in the mountains," Jinho said. "Long ago, I was different. I was a leader of people who wanted to change things. There were people in power who were hurting others, taking their freedom away, making their lives empty and small. My people wanted me to be their king. They wanted me to rule them and make things better." "Why did you not become their king?" asked Heywan. "Because I understood something," said Jinho. "I understood that a king is still a king even if he tries to be good. When people follow a king, they stop thinking. They stop being brave. They wait for the king to tell them what to do. I did not want that. I wanted my people to be free. I wanted them to think for themselves. So I left. I gave up my power. I walked away into the mountains." "But surely your people needed you," said Dareum. "Did they not suffer without you?" "Maybe," said Jinho. "For a while, maybe they did suffer. But I believed that they would learn. I believed that they would find their own way to be free. I believed that this was more important than my power." Dr. Haiwan was writing everything down. She was fascinated by this man. She had studied many civilizations, many leaders, but she had never heard of a leader who gave up power on purpose. It was against everything she had learned. "You are unique," said Haywan. "The machine detected something in you that is very rare. A person who could rule but does not want to rule. A person with the power to make others follow them, but who uses that power to tell others to think for themselves." "I do not think that is so rare," said Jin-Ho. "I think all people have this power inside them, the power to make others believe in them, the power to make others follow them. But most people do not understand that they have this power, and most people who understand it use it badly." The next day, the news reached Earth. The ships of the hegemony were coming to study this crownless king. Other civilizations were sending ships too. The Vekian Empire sent a ship. The Kartuli people sent a ship. Everyone wanted to see this rare human who the ancient machine had detected. Teo and her team tried to prepare Jin-Ho for what was coming. They told him that many beings from many worlds would soon arrive. They told him that he would be studied and questioned. They told him that some might want to use him. "They will want me to rule," Jin-Ho said simply. "They will want me to lead them. They will think that because the machine called me a crownless king, I have some special power. They will want to give me a crown and make me their king." "Will you refuse them?" asked Teo. "I will refuse them," said Jin-Ho. "I learned long ago that power is a kind of sickness. When you take it, you think you are helping others. But really, you are helping yourself. You are feeding something inside you that can never be satisfied. The only way to be free is to refuse the power." But Teo knew something that Jin-Ho did not yet know. She knew that Commander Ra-Jin was coming. She knew that Ra-Jin was not the kind of person to accept a refusal. Ra-Jin had ambition and power, and she would not let one human stop her from becoming more important. She would not let one man refuse what the hegemony wanted. The sky above the broken city began to light up with the arrival of many ships. They came in the night, one after another, like falling stars. Each ship carried leaders and soldiers and scientists. Each ship wanted to meet the crownless king and understand what he really was. Jin-Ho stood alone on the roof of the old building and watched the ships arrive. His face was calm, but his hands were shaking a little. He had lived alone for so long, and now the whole galaxy was coming to find him. He had refused power once, and now he would have to refuse it again. But this time, it would not be so easy. This time, the power would not accept his refusal. Commander Ra-Jin walked through the halls of the research facility like she owned the place. She had arrived with 50 soldiers and 20 researchers. She wore a uniform that was black and gold, and weapons hung from her belt. Her face was strong and serious. She had been told that she was important, that she was special, and she believed it completely. "Where is the crownless king?" she asked Teo. Her voice was not friendly. It was the voice of someone who was used to giving orders and having them followed immediately. "His name is Jin-Ho," said Teo. "He is not a thing to be studied like an experiment. He is a person. He has agreed to speak with your leaders, but he will not be treated like a prisoner." Ra-Jin looked at Teo with eyes that were cold and hard. "You have been here on Earth for too long," she said. "You have started to think like these humans. You have forgotten that we are the hegemony. We decide what happens. We decide how things will be. This human will do what we say, or we will find another way to use him." But when Ra-Jin entered the meeting room where Jin-Ho was waiting, something unexpected happened. She expected to see a king sitting on a throne, or at least someone who looked important and powerful. Instead, she saw a man in simple clothes, sitting on a simple chair, looking out a window at the broken city below. "Commander Ra-Jin," said Jin-Ho without turning around, "I have been waiting for you. Dr. Teo told me you would come." Ra-Jin did not like this. She did not like that Jin-Ho did not stand up or bow. She did not like that he did not look impressed by her uniform or her power. But she sat down anyway. "I have read the report from the ancient scanner," said Rajin. "It says that you are a crownless king. It says that you have the power to lead and to change civilizations. The hegemony has a question for you." "I know what you will ask," said Jin-Ho. He finally turned to look at Rajin. His eyes were very clear and very kind. "You will ask me to become the leader of Earth. You will tell me that humanity needs to join the hegemony. You will say that if I lead humanity, you will give us power and wealth and protection. You will promise me that I will become important." Rajin was shocked. How did this human know exactly what she was going to say? "And what is your answer?" she asked carefully. "My answer is no," said Jin-Ho. "I will not become a leader. I will not accept power. I gave up power a long time ago, and I will not take it back." Rajin stood up. Her hand went to the weapon on her belt. "You do not understand," she said. "This is not a choice. This is what the hegemony wants. You will do this, or Earth will suffer consequences. We can make your world very small and very sad." But Jin-Ho did not look afraid. He looked sad, but not afraid. "I understand," he said. "I understand that you have power. I understand that you can hurt me and my people. But I also understand that if I give you what you want, I will hurt everyone even more. Do you know what happened to me before? Do you know why I left everything behind?" Rajin sat back down. She was interested now. Jin-Ho told her his story. He told her about the people who had followed him when he was younger. He told her about how they had wanted him to make all their decisions for them. He told her about how they had stopped thinking and stopped growing. He told her about how he realized that his power was making them weak instead of strong. "I learned," said Jin-Ho, "that the only way to truly help people is to refuse to rule them. The only way to make them strong is to let them be strong on their own. If I become your leader, I become your prisoner. If the hegemony follows me, the hegemony will stop thinking. The hegemony will stop growing. The hegemony will become weak." Rajin listened. Part of her wanted to order her soldiers to take Jin-Ho away and make him do what she wanted. But another part of her was hearing something she had never heard before, something true. "So what do you propose?" asked Rajin. "I propose that Earth deals with the hegemony as equals," said Jin-Ho. "I propose that we share knowledge and help each other, but we do not follow you. I propose that we make decisions together. I propose that the hegemony changes how it thinks about power." Rajin stood up again. She was angry and confused. This was not how things worked in the hegemony. There was always a hierarchy. There was always someone on top and someone on bottom. What Jin-Ho was describing was chaos. But before she could say anything, Tayo appeared in the doorway. She was holding her scanner, and her face was very worried. "Commander Rajin," said Tayo, "I need to show you something. I have been studying the scanner's database. I have been looking at the history of the Crownless King designation." "What did you find?" asked Rajin. "I found that every time a Crownless King appears in history, the civilization they are part of goes through a great change," said Tayo. "Sometimes the change is good. Sometimes the change is hard. But change always happens. The Crownless King does not have to do anything. They just have to exist and be honest about who they are. Their very existence makes others question everything they believed in." Rajin looked at Tayo and then at Jin-Ho. She was beginning to understand something. She was beginning to understand that Jin-Ho was not someone she could control. She was beginning to understand that the ancient machine had not made a mistake. The machine had detected something very real and very powerful. Meanwhile, the other beings from other civilizations were arriving. They all wanted to meet Jin-Ho. They all wanted to understand what made him so special. Some thought he could help them. Some thought he was a danger. Some thought he was a god. Narration was helping to organize the meetings. She was young, but she was very smart. She had spent hours talking with Jin Ho, and she had begun to understand him. She had begun to believe that maybe there really was another way to do things. Maybe there really was a way to lead without ruling. Maybe there really was a way to have power without being greedy. "Jin Ho," she asked one day, "are you afraid of what is coming? Are you afraid that the hegemony will hurt you or your people?" Jin Ho was quiet for a long time. Then he said, "I am afraid. I am very afraid. But I am also hopeful. I am afraid because I know that power does not like to be refused. I am hopeful because I know that some people are ready to hear a different way of thinking. If even one person understands, then it is worth the fear." That night, Jin Ho did not sleep. He sat alone in his room and thought about what was going to happen next. He thought about the choices he was about to make. He thought about how refusing power might be the bravest and most dangerous thing he had ever done. The great meeting hall of the old building was filled with beings from across the galaxy. There were Vekians with their tall, thin bodies and blue skin. There were Kartuli with their 4 arms and intelligent eyes. There were representatives from the hegemony, wearing their black and gold uniforms. There were scientists and warriors and philosophers, all crowded together, all wanting to hear what Jin Ho would say. Commander Ra Jin stood at the front of the hall. She had called this meeting. She was going to give the hegemony's offer to Jin Ho in front of everyone. She believed that if Jin Ho refused in public, it would prove that he was not what the ancient machine said he was. It would prove that he was just a weak human. Jin Ho walked into the hall slowly. Everyone turned to look at him. He was not wearing anything special. He was not wearing a uniform or a crown or anything that would show that he was important. He was just wearing his simple clothes. But everyone in the hall felt it immediately. They felt something coming from him. Something powerful and real. "Jin Ho," said Ra Jin loudly, "I have brought representatives from the greatest civilizations in the galaxy. They all want to offer you something. We want to make you the leader of a new alliance. We want you to bring humanity into our family. We want you to help us bring peace to the galaxy. We will give you power and resources and respect. All you have to do is say yes." Jin Ho looked at all the faces looking at him. He could see the hope in some faces. He could see the doubt in others. He could see the hunger for power in the faces of the military commanders. He took a breath and began to speak. "I am grateful for this offer," he said. His voice was quiet, but everyone could hear it clearly. "And I am grateful to the ancient machine for calling me. But I must tell you all something important. I cannot accept this power. I will not accept this power." There was a sound of people gasping. Ra Jin's face turned red with anger. "And I will tell you why," continued Jin Ho. "I have lived for many years, and I have learned something that I believe all of you need to learn too. I have learned that power is a sickness. When you take power, you think you will use it for good. You think you will help others. But power changes you. Power makes you believe that you are better than others. Power makes you believe that you know what is best for everyone. Power makes you believe that you should decide for others instead of letting them decide for themselves." A Kartuli commander stood up. "But without power, how do we make things better? How do we stop evil from spreading?" "That is a good question," said Jin Ho. "But it is the wrong question. The right question is, how do we help people become strong enough to stop evil themselves? How do we teach people to think? How do we help them understand what is right and what is wrong?" Teo was watching from the side of the room. She was proud of Jin Ho. She had known him for only a short time, but she had begun to understand what the ancient machine had detected. He was not a king. He was something different. He was someone who made people question everything they believed in. "I came to Earth a long time ago," continued Jin Ho. "There were people here who wanted me to be their king. They had problems, and they wanted me to solve those problems. They wanted me to make all the hard decisions. They wanted to give their power to me, and I refused them. I walked away. I told them that they had to find their own way. And what happened to your people? Asked a Vekian scientist. Did they survive without you? I do not know, said Jinho simply. I chose not to follow them. I chose not to watch what they did. But I believed that they would learn. I believed that by being alone, I was doing something important. I was showing them that they did not need a king. I was showing them that they could survive without me. Rajin stood up. She had heard enough. This is nonsense, she said. What you describe is not leadership. It is abandonment. You are too afraid to take power, so you pretend that refusing power is somehow noble. Maybe you are right, said Jinho. Maybe I am afraid. I do not deny that. But I have watched many leaders. I have watched them become drunk with power. I have watched them make choices that hurt millions of people because they believed they knew what was best. I have watched power corrupt even good people. So yes, I am afraid of power, but I am more afraid of what power does to people. The hall became very quiet. Many people were thinking about what Jinho had said. Some of them were thinking about their own leaders. Some of them were thinking about their own desire for power. I have another proposal, said Jinho. I will work with you all, but not as a king. I will work with you as an advisor and a thinker, but all decisions will be made together. No one person will rule. All beings will have a voice. The hegemony has been ruled by a few people for a long time. Maybe it is time to try something different. Darayam was listening very carefully. She had been raised by the hegemony. She had been taught to believe that hierarchy and power were necessary. But she was beginning to question these beliefs. She was beginning to think that maybe Jinho was right. I support this proposal, Darayam said loudly. Everyone turned to look at her. She was very young to speak in this place. I have studied humanity and Jinho's philosophy. I believe that what he is describing could work. I believe that we are ready for something new. Several other scientists nodded in agreement. Several soldiers frowned and looked angry. Rajin looked at Jinho. She wanted to refuse him completely. She wanted to order her soldiers to take him away by force. But she was beginning to understand something too. She was beginning to understand that if she did that, she would prove everything that Jinho had said about power. She would show that power could only keep itself through force and fear. The hegemony will consider your proposal, Rajin said finally. But we will need time. This is not something we can decide quickly. I understand, said Jinho. I have waited a long time already. I can wait longer. As the meeting ended, many beings came to speak with Jinho. Some wanted to argue with him. Some wanted to agree with him. Some simply wanted to understand him better. The ancient hall that had been empty and silent for so long was now filled with voices and energy and the possibility of change. Teo found Min-suk after the meeting. They stood together, watching Jinho talk with representatives from different worlds. What do you think will happen? Asked Min-suk. I do not know, said Teo. But I know that something has changed. I can feel it. The galaxy will never be the same again. The ancient machine was not wrong. It detected something very real. It detected someone who could change everything, not through power, but through truth. That night, the ships remained in orbit above Earth. The beings from many worlds were still thinking, still arguing, still trying to understand what Jinho had said, and Jinho, once again, sat alone on the roof and looked at the stars. He had refused power again. He had lived through it. But he knew that the real battle was just beginning.